Hi, everyone. Welcome to DevRunner. My name is Paul. I'm an endurance runner and an RRCA certified running coach. And this is Subscriber Spotlight, where I have conversations with inspiring runners to motivate you on your running journey. My guest today is an award-winning run coach who established the StrengthRunning coaching service, podcast, and YouTube channel. His advice has been featured in Runner's World, Competitor Magazine, the Huffington Post, Active, Lifehacker, and so many more publications. So it's truly a pleasure for me to be able to speak today with the amazing Jason Fitzgerald. Jason, thank you for being here today. How you doing, man?
What a warm welcome. Thanks so much for having me. This is great.
Absolutely my pleasure. I've been a fan of yours for, gosh, as long as I've been on YouTube. So, I discovered you on YouTube years ago and immediately went over to your podcast. And it's just been what a journey of incredible knowledge you've taken me along on. So thank you.
Oh, that's so great of you to say. And I'm so glad you're getting value out of the YouTube channel and the podcast and all the other resources that I have. That's high praise. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm not just blowing smoke. I mean, everybody, please, if you don't already know who Jason is, I'm going to say right off the bat, go get subscribed to his channel because, man, you have helped me for years in my own running journey and even the information that I pass along as a coach to my clients. So good stuff, good stuff. Jason, just to get started, I'm hoping that you can share just a short bio, who you are, where you're from, anything that you want people to know about you just right off the bat.
Yeah, sure. So Jason Fitzgerald, I'm a running coach. I host the StrengthRunning Podcast and the StrengthRunning YouTube channel. I have been running since I was a freshman in high school. I went out for the cross country team thinking that I could high jump because my mom told me it was like track. Okay. And I very quickly learned that there are no field events in cross country. And I had to, get my long mesh shorts and my basketball shoes. And I struggled to finish that first 2.9 mile run that I went on. But I think like a lot of runners, I got hooked on improvement. I got hooked on progress. And I just loved the feeling of putting in the work and then getting the results afterward. So I started running cross country and then I ran indoor track and outdoor track. I ran all 3 seasons for all 4 years of high school. I went to Connecticut College where I was also able to run cross country in indoor and outdoor track for all 4 years. And then I just never stopped. I still loved the process of training. I loved getting into different types of races. So I started the steeplechase when I was a senior in college. Wow. I got into triathlon, duathlon, trail races. I got into some longer road races as a post-collegiate runner. Just thought there was so much more to explore. I couldn't just quit my running career right after college. And I'm so glad that I didn't because, after my first marathon, I had a really bad injury. I hurt my IT band for probably about 6 months or so. And that was actually the impetus for me to start strength running back in 2010. Okay. Wow, that makes me sound old. I guess I've been around for a while. But I just felt like I had something to share with the running community. I thought that we could design better training, more strategic training. We could focus on what really matters and kind of ignore all of the fads and the shiny red balls that catch our attention, but aren't really going to help our training and our goals that we have for ourselves. And I started strength running in 2010 as a blog and really grew it from there. I then started going on YouTube. The podcast wasn't started until late 2016, but we're up over 250 episodes now. It's quite the journey. And today, these days, I'm still running, but I probably get more satisfaction from helping my clients and the broader running community achieve their goals. I just get such a rush from having a runner have a breakthrough, some crazy peak performance where they just meet their goal, they exceed their goal, and they are just ecstatic because I remember what that felt like. And one of my goals as a coach is to help as many runners as possible have that same breakthrough feeling because it's unbeatable.
Oh yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about, from both sides of the coin, as a runner, I know that I'm still, even at this late age, because I personally didn't even take up running until I was 42 years old, 10, almost 11 years ago. And it was one of those things where I was like, wow, I can't believe at my age, I'm able to do this and improve. And I got so obsessed that I became a coach myself, and because I love that feeling of passing that sense of accomplishment onto others, that excitement that just runs through you like electricity when you get a new PB, or just even, really get it when you're out there just on a training run. It's just amazing. So
and it's not just like the PR or, some big goal that you might accomplish. It's the feeling when you're doing it. When you recognize you're in the middle of a race, you're, 80% done with a race, and that you're going to have a breakthrough. That you are running out of your mind and you are going to run an amazing PR. That feeling is something that I wish I could bottle up and sell to the masses. I'd probably be a billionaire.
Yeah, it's amazing because it always comes, you're working hard and it hurts, but there's enough juice to just see you through to a new level. It's just a great feeling. I know exactly what you mean. Jason, I'm going to hit the rewind button here a little bit because I want to know, like you described your mom sort of telling you to go out for the high jump, and that kind of got you strangely into running. But did you have like more of a wider picture of athletics before you got into running, or was like that really your first experience with athletics?
So I was a basketball player before I started running, and I loved basketball throughout my elementary school years. I played, for the school, for a traveling team when I was in middle school. But unfortunately, after middle school, I pretty much stopped growing while my friends kept getting taller. So I had to give my basketball dreams up. And besides basketball, I led an active childhood, playing in the neighborhood, doing sports like that. I would spend a lot of time at the beach, being someone whose grandparents had a house on Cape Cod. So that was a great summer experience for me. But I didn't have a lot of organized sport experience besides basketball. And believe it or not, I actually was debating between, going for the cross country team or trying out for the golf team, just because I really liked the driving range. And I thought this might be something that I could get interested in. But I'm so glad that I started running. And I think for the reasons that you were saying earlier, it's getting hooked on that progress, that improvement, that getting better and better and better. And have that is something also that no one can really take away from you, right? Like once you've run a 6-minute mile, a 5-minute mile, you have run that and nobody can take that from you. So it's an amazing thing to have with you. But no, I wouldn't say my athletic background before cross country was, super thorough or anything like that.
Gotcha. Okay. Now, you kind of took us very briefly through sort of how you began running and how you progressed all the way through college and even post-collegiately. But I'm hoping maybe that you can talk a little bit about what you consider the highlights of your own running career.
Oh, wow. I actually don't know if I've ever actually been asked that on a podcast before. That's a great question. As soon as you asked me that, a couple memories popped into my head. When I was a senior in college, I really wanted to run the steeplechase. Now, the steeplechase, 3,000 meters long, it's on the track. There are 5 or 6, I'd have to check on that, barriers around the track. There's the water pit where you have to not only get on top of the barrier, but then hurl yourself over this water pit. Mm-hmm. And it just was this crazy event to me. This was wild. This was like I think this has origins as like a horse race. And now they put it on the track and they're having people compete in this race. And it just cracked me up. And I started training for it, doing the hurdle drills, doing some workouts over hurdles, doing all the extra mobility drills. And I actually got hurt a couple weeks before my first steeplechase. And I actually almost never raced the steeple because I was like, well, I hurt the arch of my foot and this is going to be a lot of stress, jumping and landing on this foot constantly. And it was my last season of outdoor track as a senior in college. So I was just very worried that I might try to run the steeple, really hurt my foot, and then I'm out for the rest of the season. My whole college career is over in a flash.
Gotcha.
But I had a little bit more confidence in myself. I said, look, this is something you've been training for. You really are interested in it. Let's try it. And I ran that first race. I ended up winning the race. I ended up qualifying for the New England meet, and I felt great. And it was kind of weird because I think the first water pit you skip. And so you don't get to a hurdle until you are over 200 meters into the race. And so I had a little bit like checked out. And so I was in this pack of guys running, and all of a sudden there's all this jostling around me. I'm like, what are they doing? What's happening? Oh my God, they're jumping over a hurdle. And I almost forgot to jump over the first hurdle of this race. But I think my first steeplechase is one of my favorite memories. I only ran 2 when I was in college. I ran 1 post-collegiately, but I think if anyone has the opportunity to train for and compete in this very unique track race, I would take advantage of that opportunity because it's very different and it's just really fun. It's a very athletic, demanding event. And when I look back on that, I am so proud of the work that I put into it. I'm excited that I had the drive to try this new track event. As a senior in college, I could have just stuck with the 1500 and the 5K, like all the other distance guys, but I wanted to see what I could do in a different type of race. And I'm really glad I did. The other race, or the other memory, I would say, they're not all races. Some of my best friends are runners, from my college days, from my high school days. The best man at my wedding was my high school cross country co-captain. So some of my favorite memories about running aren't really about running, but one of my running memories that I still think about very much to this day is when I ran my marathon PR, because it's extra special to me because the first marathon that I ran was not a great experience. It was a very cliched experience. I hit the wall at mile 20. I totally bonked. And it was really challenging for me to come back from that marathon. And that's when I got that IT band syndrome injury and was out for 6 months. And I didn't even know if I was going to run again. I contemplated quitting. I watched way too many reruns of House on my couch. It was a very sad time for Jason Fitzgerald. But after seeing a lot of PTs and getting healthy, I sort of just got back on the horse and was like, I want another crack at the marathon distance, even though last time it broke me. And I ran the 2011 Philadelphia Marathon, and my goal was to break 240. I had run 244 at the New York City Marathon. And I don't know, for our listeners, I'm pointing to a picture behind me of me racing the New York City Marathon back in 2008. But I wanted a race where I actually felt good. I did not want to hit the wall as badly as I did at mile 20, because there was a guy who was easily in his 70s passing me at about mile 24 of the marathon.
Wow.
And I'm okay with that. But the way I was feeling, it really made me feel like, I was kind of coming off my college career, right? So I was on a little bit of a high horse. I thought I was quote unquote fast. And then next thing you know, I'm running over 7-minute pace to finish up a race. And this old guy's passing me. I was like, oh man, I've got work to do. But the Philadelphia Marathon was almost the polar opposite. I was much more intentional about fueling. My training was better. My pacing was also better early in the race. And that allowed me to actually put in a surge at mile 22. It allowed me to feel good, as good as you can potentially feel in the last 5 or so miles of a marathon. And I reached my goal. I ran 2:39:32. I just remember crossing the finish line and thinking to myself, oh my God, I did it. Like, 3 years later, after my first race, after so many injuries, coming back from those injuries, feeling out of shape. And it was just this whole struggle, this whole journey over years. And when I finally did it, I was just so excited. So if I had to look back on my career, those are probably 2 of my favorite memories.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I love that. I love the fact that it was a struggle for you. I don't like the fact that it took you 3 years to get there. In the sense of, I know how frustrating that can be. But in a way, it makes that win sweeter when you finally cross that line and you finally achieve it. It's just such a wonderful feeling. So, that's awesome. That's awesome. I'm trying to chase a 249 at this point at 53 years old. So I know, it's a slower time, but it's, just as big an effort, I think, that's going to have to go into it for me.
I also think you might be twice the age that I was when I was racing my 239. So your 249, great, age adjusted, might be much more impressive.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I'm not there yet, so I don't want to take any credit for anything. But that's great. I love those. I love those stories, and I also love the fact that you're so close to your old teammates that they're actually at your wedding and all that kind of stuff. That's great. You know, it's amazing the kind of close-knit relationships you can develop as a runner with other runners. It's just amazing. It's almost like you've gone through battle together.
Oh, I agree with you 100%. I think there's really something to be said about the friends you make, not just when you're having fun, but when you're suffering together. When you are doing a workout and nobody's feeling good, but you're pushing each other forward, you're staying positive, you're giving each other encouragement. Or, you know, you're waking up on Sunday morning when you're in college and you get to go run that 15, 16, 17 miles, even though you were out a little late last night, probably having one too many bush lights. And, you know, we've all been there, or most of us have probably been there, but there is something really special about those types of friends, because those friendships are somewhat born from struggle. And that's a different type of friendship. I think it's a deeper friendship. I think it's a more meaningful friendship. And, you know, I've got one of my college teammates that lives here in Denver, and I probably see him every week. He's one of my best friends.
That's awesome. That's great. That's great. I'm so happy to hear that for you. But I'm going to switch gears with you a little bit here, Jason. I'm just dying to know how you made the switch. Like you pursued your running career and had some amazing highs along the way. Where did you become interested in becoming a run coach?
Yeah, so I always just loved the sport. I wanted to be involved in the sport in some way. And in my mind, that was always coaching. And for a long time, I always thought, well, the only way I can be involved in the sport is I can, one, be a pro runner. Well, that's never going to happen. I'm not good enough. Number two, I could coach pro runners. That's really hard. There's only like 10 people, you know, in the country who are coaching, you know, substantial numbers of pro runners. Or number three, I could coach at the high school or maybe college level. And so for a long time, that was sort of the idea in my head that I was going to do. I was going to be, you know, the high school teacher who coached cross country and track, or, you know, a college track or cross country coach. Those were really my goals for a long time. And, you know, it's kind of interesting because my first job out of college, I didn't particularly love. And I would spend a lot of time during my lunch hour, this was in Boston, down at the Barnes and Noble bookstore, reading books on finance and entrepreneurialism, and just trying to figure out what I'm doing with my life, because I know that I didn't want to be sitting behind this computer working this kind of a job for the rest of my life. Mm-hmm. And I got the idea to do something on the internet. And it was helpful because I was actually at the time working for the company Wayfair, you know, the online furniture company. Yeah. And, you know, the story of that company is kind of wild. It was just started as like 2 little websites from a guy's living room, and they were drop shipping TV stands to people. So I was like, I can start small, and then maybe I can build $1 billion business like Wayfair. Now, I haven't gotten there yet, but I bought the domain name StrengthRunning.com in 2007. I thought it was a really cool domain name. And I thought, well, maybe I could do online coaching. Maybe I could coach people virtually, and they don't have to be with me every day, because, you know, that kind of a private running coach would just be exorbitantly expensive and just out of reach for most people. Yeah. And, you know, I just wanted to be in the mix. I wanted to be in the running community, interacting with people. And I thought this was one way that I could do it. And so I bought the domain name in 2007. In 2009, I set up a very simple online coaching website at strengthrunning.com, and nobody visited it. It went absolutely nowhere. And so I realized this isn't going to work. I have to start a blog, and a blog with fresh content was a way to get people to the site. And so it was kind of this meandering journey with knowing that I wanted to do something in running, and then sort of channeling my interests to what I'm doing now, which is online running coaching, doing the podcast and the YouTube channel, and helping runners, you know, with all their different goals. You know, it's not just getting faster. It's let's stay healthy. Let's get stronger. Let's, you know, let's dial in our nutrition and our diet. There's so many different ways that we can improve. And I think I was always obsessed with that. And strength running is definitely a reflection of my personality, right? If I was 15 years old, I would have loved to find strength running because I would probably just sit there and read every article for the last 10 years, all these interesting little ways of extracting more improvement and progress and fitness from your training and your performances. That to me is just very exciting. And so I've always, taken a leave no stone unturned sort of approach to getting better and improving. And you can kind of see that in all the content that I put out.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's why I think it's such a valuable resource and why I've been addicted to everything that you put out for so long. But I want to kind of shine a little bit of a spotlight on one particular aspect of your training philosophy, because frankly speaking, as a coach, this one, it shouldn't be a tough sell, but for some reason with the newer runners, the people who are just getting out of the gate, it's sometimes hard to convince them about the importance of strength training and all the benefits it has for runners. I'm hoping that, because I want them to be able to look back at this video once we publish this, and I want all of my new runners to hear this from you, because then it's not coming from me again. You know what I mean? So I'm hoping that you can do a little bit of talking about the importance and all of the benefits that come from strength training.
Yeah, I think it's helpful to start back at that pivotal moment in my running career after the 2008 New York City Marathon, where I got that IT band injury and I couldn't run for 6 months. What finally got me healthy was a very targeted physical therapy approach that included a lot of strength training. And up until this time, my strength training was sporadic. It was mostly body weight stuff, which can actually be totally fine. But it was just not consistent. And there was no strategy to it. There was no progression. There was no method to the madness. Gotcha. And I got the results one might expect. I was very much chronically injured, particularly during my college days and in the years after college. I had Achilles tendinopathy and IT band syndrome. I had sacroiliac joint issues. I had all kinds of different muscle strains, plantar fasciitis. I mean, you name it, I had most running injuries that you can imagine. But it wasn't until I started these relatively short, they're admittedly not very difficult body weight strength routines, and started doing them consistently, that I really started seeing a lot more progress, not just in my performances, but how I felt on, every given day. And so I made a commitment to do this work religiously, to the point where, I had people calling me a core whore because I was always doing different body weight exercises. And that was really a big turning point in my career, because it finally made me recognize the importance of all this strength work. And I have this fairly simple philosophy of, let's sandwich our runs. We're going to make our run into, a sandwich, and we're going to sandwich that run. Excuse me. We're going to sandwich that run in between a dynamic warm-up beforehand. So a series of dynamic flexibility exercises, some mobility exercises, and even some light strength exercises. And then maybe 10 to 20 minutes of body weight strength exercises after the run. And this bookended my runs, and it made me feel great going into the run. It made me feel great, going to work after the run. I wasn't tight and creaky and just feeling, like I was sort of hobbling around after a long run or after a workout. And I then discovered that my injury risk was going way down, because I wasn't having the same niggles. I wasn't getting injured so frequently, because I was always having to take 3 days off, 7 days off. And it would really a negative impact on my training. Yeah. And I realized that even though I don't really particularly like strength training, which is maybe sacrilege for Jason Fitzgerald to say that, I don't really like strength training. I'd rather be running. Okay. I'm a runner. I love to run. Yeah. But the strength training allows me to do the thing that I love. Strength training allows me to run more, to get more out of the training, and to operate at a higher level. And over the years, I've gotten a little bit more strategic with my approach to strength training. Now I think, if we were to talk about ideal strength training, we would be doing a lot of the body weight stuff, but we'd also be getting in the gym and lifting weights maybe twice a week. I think that's the ideal approach. And when you recognize all the benefits of strength training for runners, I mean, it's mind blowing. Everything from you're going to improve your running economy or your efficiency. You're going to improve your coordination. You're going to be able to sprint faster, especially at the end of races when you really want to kick and finish strong. You're going to improve your injury risk and just get far fewer injuries than before. Not to mention, you might improve your body composition and like the way you look a little bit better. And if one of the reasons is a vain reason, I'm okay with that. But there's so many things to like that are going to benefit our running, that if you're someone who really wants to see what your potential is, if you're someone who is injury prone and you just can't seem to go a training cycle or a season without getting some season ending niggle or injury, strength training is likely going to be one of the best things you can add to your training to improve your injury resilience and your performances and take your running to the next level. So I think it's a no-brainer, even though it is a little bit of a hard sell, because look, would rather be running.
Exactly. And thank you so much for that. You did a wonderful job of summing that up in a nice, neat little package with a nice little bow on it. And I'm going to play that little quote over and over and over again to my clients. So thank you for that. Thank you, Jason. I'm just kind of curious about what motivates you now and what your future goals are, both as a runner and as a coach.
I think as a runner, I'm very fortunate to live in Denver, Colorado, and I have pretty easy access to some of the most amazing, beautiful trail running in the country. And I feel very fortunate and grateful for that. So right now, some of my big goals are to explore Colorado, to go on some amazing trail runs and, experience what it's like to run technical trails at 10,000 feet altitude. That is very exciting for me. It's certainly not easy, but it's always been interesting for me to test my body in different scenarios. And I think, when I was 20 years old, that was, how many laps around the track can I go as fast as I can? And now I'm a little bit more into exploration. I don't necessarily have the time or the bandwidth to be running 80, 90 miles a week like I used to during my prime competitive years. So, I'm still running, I'm still training, I'm doing workouts and long runs and strides and strength training and all the things that comprise good training, but I'm just not doing it at the level, the volume, the intensity that would be required for me to run really fast. But even with that said, speed isn't what really motivates me now. It's more the experiences that I get to have with, the running community and my friends when we're out in the mountains. We're having a great time and we're just experiencing beautiful mountain vistas and gorgeous trails. There's really nothing like it. And as a coach, I am still very much interested in solving runners' problems. That is one of the things that really drives me every day. And I think it's very interesting, the job that I have, because I get to talk to runners at scale. I get to interact with runners on Twitter and on Instagram and via email and all the other different ways that I communicate with athletes. And so every day I'm probably talking to 24 runners with 24 different questions, different problems, different issues. And I love the variety of problems that I get to solve on a daily basis.
Gotcha.
And just drilling down into each individual runner's backstory and their history and their background and their goals and what their training looks like. And from there, I get to really look at, if you're doing XYZ over here, but you're not getting what you want to get, what can we change? What can we tweak? What can we add? What can we subtract? What can we do a little bit better? What can we just totally ignore and forget about because it's probably not helping our goals? Gotcha. So that is something that really interests me. And over the years, you can also see this, like I said, this is all a reflection of me, right? Strength running is definitely a reflection of me because one of the things that I do is I build these training programs that runners can go through. And I have a training program now for almost all of the big issues that runners might have. So for example, if you want to start weightlifting, but you're not really sure what to do, how to do it, or how to do it in a way that's going to benefit your running, I have a weightlifting program that I partnered with a USA weightlifting national coach. He works with pro runners up in Boulder, Colorado. The movements are all demonstrated by pro runners. So it's this great resource for runners that really shows them end to end what their strength training should look like when they're in the gym. And so I've done that with strength training. I've done that with injury prevention, nutrition, your mindset, and sports psychology. If you don't have access to a gym and you just wanted to do body weight work, can you still get a periodized, progressive, power-oriented strength program all in the comfort of your own living room? And so I've worked on programs that accomplish all of those goals. And it's so rewarding to me because, if I wanted to work on any of these things, I literally go to my own website and look things up. What do I have to say about this topic? Let me see what I wrote 5 years ago. Oh yeah, that's a good idea. And it's almost like this body of work that I'm very proud of, but it's also there to solve runners' problems. And I want to continue refining those solutions and creating new solutions and really communicating with runners on their problems so that I can figure out how to help them get to the next level and accomplish their goals.
Gotcha. Wonderful, wonderful answer. Wonderful answer. So I'm going to take a step back here, Jason. I'm going to ask you probably what I would consider the most philosophical question that I have in my list of questions for you. How has running changed your life for the better?
I think running has given me a growth mindset better than anything else in life, because with running, you start to recognize that things you thought were impossible are possible. For me, when I first started running, I thought it would be a pie in the sky dream to break 5 minutes in the mile. And then you fast forward a couple years and, I've run a 9:45 2-mile. So I've not only run a sub 5 mile, I've done 2 of them in a row. And it just leaves you constantly refining what you think is possible. And it also gives you, I think, an incredible work ethic, because if you want to accomplish big things, you're gonna have to do a lot of work. And that's okay if you like doing the work, if you're really interested in it, if it fills your cup at the end of the day. Nothing made me happier than going out on a 20-mile long run. I just loved it. And I knew that all that hard work was going to help me become a better runner. And that was really my entire goal. I was entirely fixated on becoming a better runner for, probably about 16 years of my life. And I did become a better runner than when I started. I think pretty much every runner will think to themselves that, well, I still think I have a couple soft PRs and I could have been better, but if a couple things were different. Every runner goes through those things. Yeah. I have a couple PRs that are like just a couple seconds over a certain benchmark. Like my 5K PR is 16:02, and that drives me crazy. Like I couldn't get under 16 minutes. Like, oh, well, I'm stuck with that PR for the rest of my life now. But it did teach me the value of hard work. And that hard work then opens up all this growth. And so when I said to myself, hey, I want to start an online coaching business, I didn't really know what to do or how to do it. Just like I didn't know how to run my ultimate eventual PRs when I first started running. I just knew that I had to get started. I just knew that I had to enjoy the journey. I had to enjoy the hard work. And I knew that growth was possible if I had put in the work. And I think that can be applied to so many different areas of your life. And it can be very, very powerful. You become a runner, you get addicted to progress, like so many of us do. And you put in the hard work, and it just becomes this amazing process of improvement that then bleeds into other areas of your life. And that can be so rewarding.
That's just a wonderful answer. And I agree wholeheartedly. Since I became a runner 10 years ago, I find myself being a much more, not just motivated person, but I think a kinder person too, because when you're out there and you're grinding, I've found that you got to give yourself a little bit of grace, and it's very easy then to sort of share that out to others, so.
Yeah. And you're often too tired to be a jerk.
Well said, sir. So let me ask you this, just this is the last real question in the interview. Please share a favorite piece of advice for runners, like somebody who's just coming out of the gate and they're excited about becoming a runner, but they need a sense of direction.
I think maybe one of the best pieces of advice is your progress might happen slower than you think, but it will happen. And I think the phrase, we overestimate what we can do in a day, but underestimate what we can do in a month is entirely applicable to the sport of running. Because if we are, you can't just go run 20 miles every day. You can't go do a hard workout every day. But if you're consistent over the course of a month or 3 months or 3 years, you are going to dramatically change your perception of your capabilities as a runner. Even though your progress is probably going to take a little bit longer than you would like. I think everyone wants to go from couch to marathon when they first start running, but that's really difficult. Even though it takes a while, I think it's important to always have the mindset that your training should be progressing. You should be trying to get better at certain things within your training all the time. So maybe every season you're trying to run 5 or 10% more overall mileage. Maybe that's overall over the course of, a certain number of months. Maybe it's 5 or 10% more during the peak weeks of your training. Maybe you're just trying to be more consistent with your long runs, or you're going to make some of your workouts maybe a little bit longer. And as you improve in races, you can make them a little bit faster. You could start adding in strength training, doing a fair amount of cross training. There's so many ways that we can improve our training and get better, take that next step to take our performances to the next level. But we always need to be doing a little bit more, or doing something a little bit more strategically. And if we can have those dual mindsets of, this is going to take a while, but I'm always going to be looking for new ways to optimize my training, then I think progress is going to be consistent over time. And I think that is one of the best motivators for runners. If you're just starting out running and you want to make this a lifelong habit, be a little bit conservative with your training, but still always try to be doing something a little bit better than you did last week or last month. And you're just going to be getting better and better over time. And that's going to keep you so inspired to train. It's going to keep you very driven to continue to excel and to try to get more out of yourself as a runner. And that's the stuff that lifetime runners are made of.
Exactly. Yeah, it's amazing to me, I keep repeating, even at my age, I started late as a runner, and I would never have imagined 10 years ago that I would still, at this latest stage, still be making progress, still be setting PRs, and still enjoying the entire process, because I'm following a process that very much reflects what you just said, Jason. So thank you for the amazing advice. Thank you for the amazing interview, and thank you for your years of service at StrengthRunning. I really, really cannot express to you in this short a period of time how much your advice has meant to me and to so many other runners that I personally know. So thank you, sir. Thank you for being here. I don't want to let you go without sharing all the places online where people can find you.
Well, Paul, thank you so much for all those kind words. That means a lot, and it's very much appreciated. I'm so glad that my advice has helped you in some small ways over the last couple of years. If folks want to connect, I would love that. You can email me anytime. I'm at support@strengthrunning.com. That's our home base, the StrengthRunning website, where you can find more information on, our different email courses that we have, our different training programs, the StrengthRunning Podcast. And then if you head on over to YouTube, we have the StrengthRunning YouTube channel. But if you want to connect with me a little bit more personally, you can find me on Twitter or Instagram. On both platforms, my handle is JasonFitz1.
Cool. Thank you so much. And I'll share all of that information in the show notes so people can just get there with a click. So no worries there. Jason, I'll say it one more time. Thank you. It was a real pleasure for me to be able to, have this time with you. So I hope you have a great night. And I'm going to personally be getting in touch with you about my training because, there are a few things that I haven't managed to figure out. And I think some fresh eyes, especially from a professional of the caliber that you are, might just help me out. So keep an eye out for some emails from me. But thank you, sir.
That's exciting. Let's solve some problems. Thanks, Paul. I appreciate it.
Cool. Have a good one.